You're welcome to Chidi's Auto Channel. Today I'm going to give us some tips concerning our vehicle and maintenance and the few things that we need to regularly check. Most of us know about checking water. This is the radiator water. Most of us also know about checking our engine oil here. And then another one is to check the radiator, the wiper washer water. You can also see it here. And then some of us may also be aware of how to check our gearbox oil. Though some vehicles like this one does not have dipstick to check the gearbox oil. So if you're driving this sort of cars, what are you supposed to do? Basically, you go to your mechanic. They'll be able to check it. Either if you're using a mechanic that knows how to use OBD tool, which is a onboard diagnostic scanner, can use it to check. And then some vehicles as well may have a dipstick, but the dipstick will not be there. Like in some Mercedes, you have your oil space and then the gearbox, but there will not be dipstick. There's a special dipstick they use which you can always get in the mechanic, but for this Toyota there is no space for a dipstick. So there's a special way you check it. Maybe in my next video I may discuss it, or you can actually go to your mechanic and confirm. Another thing we have to also check is um the brake fluid. As you can see, the brake fluid container here, but there is something we need to pay particular attention to. This, like, this is the maximum level it should be, and somewhere in here is the minimum. Now if you check and your brake fluid is gradually going down, two things could be involved. It's either your brake pad has gone down or there's a leakage. But if you check under your tires and you do not see where oil is leaking, but from time to time you will have to add oil to your brake fluid, know that there is a leakage somewhere that is not around the tires. But if the leakage is not constant, it's gradual, know that your brake pad has gone down. Some vehicles are equipped with sensors that signify on the dashboard that your brake pad has gone down, while some vehicles, especially the older ones, you may not notice until you start hearing noise, fifi fifi, as if metal is rubbing on metal. At that point you may have to go to the mechanic. But if you check your brake fluid and you notice that it keeps going down, that you often have to top it constantly, know there's a leakage. If it's going down gradually, know that your brake pad has gone down and then you need to change it. So these are the few things that we regularly need to check in our vehicles. While we often need to do this, depending on how long we've used the car, we can actually tell if there's a leakage or not. If we check these things constantly and we notice that it's always at a certain level, then you can tell that, okay, yes, there's no leakage. But as often as you check these things and then there's a leakage, know you have to visit the mechanic. As to your oil level, one of the best ways to check is when you bring it out like this. You wipe out this particular one you have brought out this first time, and then you dip it back. When you dip it back and bring it up again, you don't have to keep the stick pointing down. It may not give you the best reading. Keep it a bit flat so that you can actually tell where the oil level is. And then when you check and you notice that the oil is shorting, you have to go to your mechanic to work on it. And then if the oil color is different, you also need to visit your mechanic, especially if it is very, very dark, because at times from the color of your vehicle oil you can actually tell if there's an issue in your vehicle. Another thing we also need to be checking out on our vehicle is what we see on our dashboard screen. But before I get into that, there is something I need to bring to our notice. If you've parked your car for a very long time, at least for like 5 to 6 hours, and then you want to start it or you want to go, please don't make the mistake of just starting and moving. When you start the vehicle, give it some few seconds so that the tachometer would actually move from above 1 to like 1 or below 1. When you do that, you've allowed oil to circulate well before you move. Some keep doing this and they will be like, but it does not affect anything. It does gradually, and before you will know it, your engine will start having issues, because it means that the metals keep rubbing against each other. The vehicle or the engine is not properly lubricated. So when you start your car, if you've left it for so long, either overnight or you came to work and left it for long, when you come and start the vehicle, at least wait for like a minute so that the tachometer will go from above 1 to below 1. I'm still going to start this vehicle so that we can see what I'm talking about. And then another thing is, if you look at this dashboard, there are a lot of lights here. Some are red, some are amber. The red ones, if you start your vehicle and the vehicle is still on, means that you really need to stop and check what the problem is. But when you start your vehicle and the red ones go off, then if it has to do with the ones on amber or green, then there's not much of an issue, but you still need to go to the mechanic to check it out. Now let me start this car, which has parked for long, and let's see what I was talking about. You can see that the tachometer is above 1 because the vehicle has not been started for long. So by the time you wait for like a minute, you will notice that this tachometer that is above 1 will get back to 1, or below 1. And as you can also see, the lights that are still red, one is door, which if I close the door it will go off, and then the other one is seat belt. They are all red lights, which are things you need to work on. This other one is green, and the other one is also amber. This green is showing eco mode. So if I'm driving and I do gradual acceleration, it will remain on this eco mode, but if I raise the vehicle, it will go off from this eco mode, meaning that the vehicles I may not get the best of fuel consumption from the vehicle. As you can see now, the tachometer has gone to 1 and it may go below 1. So when you start your vehicle, give it some time so that the engine settles, oil lubricates, and then the engine idles better and you start moving. If you don't do that, with time your engine will develop faults. Other things we need to check out in our vehicles are maybe the fuel gauge, which most of us look at, and then the temperature. This temperature gauge is not as obvious as the fuel gauge, but it's still very important. In some vehicles, it's the temperature gauge only comes out when the vehicle temperature is hot. It comes up as a warning. And then in some vehicles, like some Mercedes, you have to press some buttons so that to take you to where to see your temperature and to be sure that your vehicle temperature is okay. But this one is here, even though you can see the C and then you can see the temperature sign there. That is the temperature gauge. So these are the things we need to watch out for. As often as possible, put your eye on your dash screen. It will help you to be certain that your vehicle is performing well, and you can actually notice some faults before it becomes very bad. Another tip I also need to point out to us is this parking brake or hand brake. A lot of people, especially those that use automatic or even manual, they will see if you put it on 1 or reverse, the vehicle will stay. If you put it on park, the vehicle will remain. Yes, But remember, the natural way, or the way that the manufacturers of the car have designed, is for you to use your parking brake to hold your vehicle, especially if it's in slopy places. If you have to park it in a slopy place and your parking brake or handbrake is functioning, first put the vehicle on neutral, engage your parking brake, remove your leg from your foot brake. If the vehicle remains steady, you can now put it on park or on one or reverse, whichever the case you want. But if your parking brake is not functioning, then you can use those. But remember, with time, the gears will start wearing, the teeth of those gears will start wearing out for manual. And then for automatic, one day the parking pole, which is what gets engaged when you put it on park, may break or it may start wearing as well. And then when you put it on park, the vehicle will roll for some time before it stops. And it happens also when you're using manual. So we need to try and make sure that our parking brake is functioning. It helps to stabilize the vehicle so that you save the cost of fixing your brake much later. Thank you for watching these tips. If you have learned something, kindly subscribe. If you have any question or comments, I will also appreciate if you put that in the comment section, and then share it or recommend it to others if there is something too that you have benefited from. Remember, the things you need to check are your vehicle inside the bonnet. Remember, you have to also be constantly watching your tachometer or your screen. And then if your parking brake is not working, kindly get it fixed in order to save yourself some cost of having to fix your vehicle later. Thank you for watching. See you on my next video.